Hi there, my name is Efigénio. I'm a co-founder of Old Bessie, and last week we've just announced our company, an outsourced editing for busy photographers, and we are so stoked and very happy with the announcement. And first of all, we'd like to thank you, everyone that has been helping us, sharing our company, and helping us share on Instagram, on Facebook. We had lots of encouragement on our company. So thank you all that you have been amazing for us, and I hope we can work together with all of you guys. Today, this video is about another announcement. We decided that we are going to create a Facebook group, Old Bessie community. So I will provide a link below so that you can join if you are interested in on Lightroom edition or Photoshop. There will be a place for discussion, and where I will share also some videos like this where I will live edit on Lightroom, and also on Photoshop, some tricks and some examples of images that you can learn from. Today I'm going to live edit some photos of my latest wedding, and this video is being recorded, and it's not going to be streaming live, but our idea is to make this on a regular basis, these live edits. So, and they will be announced as an event and as a live edit. So we will love to work on your images too. So if you like the idea, if you like to have our images for us to work with as a test, so please send us the files. You just can email me, and we arrange so that you can send me the files on WeTransfer. So let's jump into the catalog so that we can start doing our first live editing session. So we are here on the main catalog. We have this some images that I like to work with in. And this is the first one. So this is an action photo. The bride was walking from the hotel to the ceremony, and I was walking with them. So on these images, I can see that it's a little bit dark. From I was so taking careful about the highlights for not blowing highlights, so I darken a little bit on the camera, knowing that I'll be able to open that on post processing. So I will insert my main preset that I like to work with, and that's the first thing I'll do. So I'll choose my preset on the image, and then I'll start doing some changes, especially on exposure. I'll type. I'll click on the number, and with the shift and the arrow up and down, I'll go through quarter increments. So, and first of all, I just check what's in. I will check what's in the file. So for me to know how far I can go on my brightness of the image. So as you can see, if I'm stepping 2 steps, I can have these great skin tones on Bright's face. But the overall image is a little bit lighting. So I will start having this 1.5 stop as a starting point. I usually don't touch the contrast in the beginning. I left after I made the other adjustments on the next session. Then I'm coming back to the contrast. So I came back to the highlights. I know there's some highlights over here and over there, so that I can be a little bit softening, and even the sky, you can see that it's a little bit even that way. So I press the tab and I'm just moving down on the settings, so that I don't need to work with the mouth to change on the settings. So I'm just taking care of that, the shadows. I don't like to open the shadows too much. I prefer doing dodging and burning with exposure. So for me, 40 on this picture, it's great. On whites, I just could open a little bit on the dress, and there's a little bit change on the trees on the background. So for me, that's cool that way. And blacks, I will open a little bit because of the shadows on the mother of the bride's face. So I think that's a starting point for our edit. I will desaturate a little bit. So, and that's cool. That's cool. So the other thing that I do often is enable profile corrections. So because I was shooting with this with a 28 millimeter, there's some vignetting and distortion, so you can see the difference of the image with when we enable the profile corrections. So I ensure I make sure that that's enabled. That's a huge help. Another thing that I think I can work with on these images is color. So I'm not a big fan of the saturation of the palm trees. So I think it's a little bit distraction. So I will desaturate a little bit on the greens. So I can see I love to work with a single color, so I can have more control. So I can go more into the yellow side of the trees, so that you can that it can be combined a little bit better with all the yellows and the pinks from the other part of the image, and I'll desaturate a tiny bit the greens. The other thing that I think this image needs right now, that I'm did this first arrangements. I will love to correct a little bit the exposure on the bride and the bridesmaids. So I am going to do some masks over here, even on the hands, a little bit on the clothing. So first of all, I'm going to be doing on the bride. So the first thing I like to do, so for me to know where I'm working, is to open the exposure for stops. So as you can see, if I'm going to start dodging and burning, I know exactly where I'm working, and it seems a little bit scared, so that you can see uh, that is so bright, and it feels so awful that way. But then I can just turn it down by increments, and sometimes when I'm doing this, then I started to do it in other sweet spots, and that's it. With the streaming, my Lightroom just blocked, so I don't know how can I. Something is wrong, so maybe. We're back. So that's cool. So if I, you can see the before and after. So there's a little bit of a pop of on their skin tone, and now I'm going to erase the parts that I think that didn't work that well, because I was a little bit not careful on these areas. So most of the time I do it like that. So I start doing the overall, and then I erase the masking. I don't usually use auto mask. I prefer working with a 15-20% of flow, and I can build from that. I'm going to get a little bit on the blacks, so I can have a little bit more contrast. And let's do it on this way. For the bride and for the mother of the bride and the father, I'm going to starting point of the two-stop to open, because I know that will be more or less what the exposure is going to be, and decreasing the contrast a little bit, because it's going to be lightening the image also, with a more even look. And then I'm going back on the exposure a little bit, so that I can see the increments also. For me, that's good. One thing that I don't like that much is also the saturation of the blues. So I become here on the saturation of the blues, and I can desaturate a little bit. You can see that there was also a significant change on the sky, so I don't want to change that much. I can change the hue of a little bit, the hue of the blues. So I think that's cool. Another thing that I could work on these images is the floor. So maybe I can for this time I will start doing a burn. So I'll start with two stops, and also with minus 50 on the highlights. So let's see how this is going to work. So we can start here on the wedding dress, and then we can start here on the floor. So let's see if if it's working or not, and then we can change a little bit in the end. Even you can do more emphasis on the shadow here on this side. I think it's too much, so I needed just to get it down, so you can see here before and after. And that's a huge difference. The final step for this image is its crop. I always, most of the time, it's the last thing I do. When I'm doing batch editing, if I'm working on a specific short amount of photos like this, I might crop in the beginning. But if I'm working on several images at the same time, I usually do color correction and color and for several images in a row. Then I can back and just do cropping because it's easier for me because I'm paying attention only to the crop. And when we are entering the cropping mode, I can change the opacity of the screen, so I can type the letter L, so I could enter on this mode, and then I start cropping. I don't have any other distractions, so I can be paying attention to what I'm doing. There's some tools on cropping that I love. One of them is if you press the letter O, you can change these guidelines. So you can change from these grids to more. If you want more center images, you can choose this type of things. And the golden triangle. For me, I think it's the best tool, the golden triangle. So I use that a lot for creating cool compositions, and that's the case. So I can work a little bit on a composition with the help of the golden triangle. We can see the direction and the movement of the photo. The intersection points are perfectly aligned with the triangle. So I think that's a huge help for me when I'm doing the cropping on that images. If I needed to, if I was on a cropping mode, and if I needed to move around the picture, I just press Command arrow right, and I'm on the next picture on the same view. So that's easy for me to jump between pictures. Only do cropping. Be aware that my computer is a little bit more slow than usual because of the recording. But it's cool. It's cool like that. So I like the image as it is. The final touch I do is to check a little bit on the contrast. I increase a little bit the contrast, and if I think the image will need a little bit more warmer tone, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow on the highlights, maybe around 49 or 50. A little bit of maybe 8%, 9%. Usually that's what the amount that I like. And for this one, I think that's the right amount. So you can see here the before and after on this photo. And I think it helped a little bit to tell the story. So we can jump into the other photo. So this is the entrance from the bride. The groom was very emotional. So on this type of images, I will love to convert to black and white. So the first thing I do is to choose a preset of black and white. I also have a stronger one, so sometimes I'll test that, but for this one I'll start with the main one. As you can see, the image is very flat. And first of all, I'm going to see what's in the file. So changing my exposure. So for this photo, I would love to start with a little bit on a darker side, and increasing the contrast. So I'm mostly on the black and whites. I usually have a starting point of a medium contrast, and then I can change it in the end if I like. For these images, I will love to align the photo just a little bit so that the lines of the horizon will be straight. So that thing. Unfortunately, I shot this photo with a short depth of field. I wish in a moment that I was be shooting with a more depth of field so that I can have the expression of the room, but I can see more what's in the background. So the only way that I can help telling the story is with light. So I can darken the overall so that I can have more contrast here on the bright side, so we can clearly see the white point as a reference. Our eye always is attracted to the whitest point of the image. A little bit of contrast, and I am going to open a little bit more on the whites. Okay, so now we have this face that we have to deal with. So what I'm going to do, because I'm going to a mask, I'm going to work with a smaller size of the photo, so that I can, here I'm going to use a radial filter, and for this time I'm going to also to do a radial filter with a four stops. It's just a big amount, but that's, for me, that's a starting point so that you can see where I'm working. You can see what I'm going to do is like emulating the direction of light. Like that's not the case, but you can look like if the light was coming from the side. So if you emulate like that, you don't put your center of your mask in the center of the face. So so if you're going to have these dynamics and have more real mask, you need to shift a little bit more of your mask, so you can have this more light and shade on the face, and even on the clothing. So I'm working on these radial filters like that, so that's knowing that it's too much, and then I'm going to go into a little bit. It's just an overall lightning radial filter, and then I'm going to work more on on his face. So for me that's a good amount as a starting point. But now I need to erase the parts I don't like. So for when I'm erasing, I'm mostly like to do the flow on the 50%, and because I know I need to be careful so that I don't enter the parts of the image that I don't like to erase. But as you can see, it was too much here on this shirt, so I can go with the flow at 10%, and I can erase a little bit the masking here, even on this side also. Okay, so now I think for this first mask that's okay. Now I'm going to change for an adjustment brush. I'm going to open to stop, and then I'm going to slowly, with circular movements, open up a little bit more their face. If you are emulating that the light is coming from left to the right, I usually, on this situation, I usually brighten the one part of the face more than on the other side, so we can have more depth on your face with one part is more with more light, and the other part with more shadow. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to work one other part of the face better than in the other, and okay, and I think it's a good starting point. I'm going to increase the clarity up to 9 points, so that I can have more contrast, micro contrast on your face. And then I'm going to decrease the amount of exposure to a sweet spot. So as you can see, we can go in increments, and I think that's it. Now that I'm looking to the images, I can see that the left part of the image is more brightened than the other part. So I'm going to open a little bit this side, a little bit of the image, especially on this white fabric, to even the other one. Okay. And I'm going to have a little bit of lighting on the tissue. Okay, so now I think the image is a little bit better. I'm going to check out how we can even open a little bit more with the color, because we know, as you can see before, there's there's some different tonalities between the tie tissue and the suit, even on his face. So let's see if we can do a more dynamic image. So I'm going to darken a little bit the blues, and I'm going to open a little bit the orange so that we can have more expression on the face. And let's see the changes that we can do on the tie. Not big changes, so that's cool, like that. So I think I will open a little bit more here on this area. Okay. I think it's good. And now I'm going to see the image as a whole, and then I'm checking the contrast. So I always do that for at the last, and I think it's good amount. And checking the blacks, I think sometimes when I'm increasing the contrast, the blacks are becoming very, very full. As you can see on Instagram, there's some points that we're clipping on the whites and the blacks, but I like these contrasty images, so for me that's done. Let's move on. So this image was already edited. As you can see, we're going to start around. So I'm going to enable the color correction, the color profile correction, the lens profile correction, sorry. So that's the first thing I can add. And then I'm going to start with a preset, my main presets, and you can see that the image is slightly darker. So the first thing I'm going to do is to check what I'm going to decide to do. So I even like this photo darker. I will dark the image a little bit, but then I'm going to open with a mask also here, or maybe on with color. Let's see. The contrast, I think it's good. The image is maybe do it for last. There's no highlights on his image, so there's not a big change. The shadows, not a big change also. And the whites I'm going to open a little bit more than on the preset, because I can see more brightness on the dress. And the blacks, because it was a little bit darker here on the left side of the image, I just going to open a little bit. I'm not a big fan of you can see that there's completely different skin tones and the reds are too saturated because of the preset that it was using, and I will desaturate a little bit the reds, and I'll work a little bit desaturating the orange too, and starting to get these cool tones on the bride. You can see that she's a little bit on the greener side, so I will fix that on the tint. So I'll add a little bit of magenta. Let's see how it will work on the overall image, and just let's see. I like this one, so I'm going here to decrease a little bit more on the reds, the saturation, and maybe open a little bit of the luminance. And that's the overall image. I'm maybe I will add some yellows to the highlights to reinforce this golden hour, and let me check how the blues and purples are. So one trick I do is go all the way up on the saturation just to check out what I'm going to work. So let's see if there's some changes that we saturate a little bit here, and I think it's I'm liking that. I will open a little bit more the vibrance and reducing the saturation, just because of the skin tones. When we increasing the vibrance, we are increasing color, but we preserve the skin tones more than when we do the saturation. So if I desaturate and open a little bit more the vibrance, the colors will pop up, but that will be a preservation of the skin tones. In this image is a little bit tough because the overall scene is a little bit on the same tonality of the skin tone, so we cannot see a huge difference, but I think that's cool. I'm going to saturate a little bit more here the grass, the field. Have a little bit more pop of color here because I like that. Let's see, just a tiny, and just a little bit of clarity. And I think it's good. I think this image should benefit for a cloning. So we could jump in to Photoshop. To erase that wire on the right. And that's it. Maybe I'm going to offset a little bit more. Yeah. I like sometimes these images to add a little bit of grain. That's too much. That's okay. So it gives a little bit more creamier images when you have the grain. So I'll like to add it on add some grain on the images too. But it will depend on the light situations. It will the amount and of the noise that the image is already had. So if you're going to, for example, on the next image, so you're going to on these images is plenty of smoke, plenty of noise. If you can see, if you open, you can see that it's too noisy. I probably do not add a grain to this image. I think I could do some noise reduction and add a little bit of grain, but most of the time I don't, because of the natural pixelation of the photo. I don't think there's a need to add more noise to the photo, because I think that the grain is good for this purpose, so that you can give some definition and more creamier tones. But in this example, I'm not going to add more. So I think for today, it's because it was my first live session. I think it's good for today. As you can see, that's my first live session, and I'm learning with all that, with the streaming, with the recording, and all that. And I don't know if I spend too much time on each image. If you need for me to be faster, or have this kind of detailed information. So please let me know in the comments, so that we can improve on the next live edit. I hope you like this video. If you like to see this on YouTube, just please subscribe and hit the ring bell so that you can receive the notifications. And if you see this on the community, on the Facebook group, just please send us a comment of what's your opinion of the video. And sorry for my English. I'm from Portugal, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to be talking to no one. I'm just talking to the computer, but that's okay. So just please let me know if you have any question, and hope you see you on the next one. See you.